In this lesson, we'll connect our fueling hoses chain to the airship. We'll need to do more than simply parent our effector to the body of our airship. Notice if we try to do that, let's grab the effector, use the hotkey / for our parent tool. If we try to go ahead and do that, it's not going to work. We're going to need to use a more complex tool. That tool will be a constraint, so we'll learn how to work with constraints in this lesson. I've just undid back. What we'll need to do first is go ahead and take our fuel cap and make sure that's parented to our ship body. That way we can constrain our effector to that cap. So with the cap selected, we'll go ahead and use our parent tool and parent to the body of the ship. All right, great. So at this point, we can head over to our main control panel. To apply a constraint, we'd first select the object to be constrained. That's our effector. Now we can head over to our constraint menu, and we'll want to choose a position constraint, which will lock down the position of this object. Let's go ahead and choose that. And just FYI, we can think of constraints like parenting, only we're able to regulate whether that object will follow or whether it will not follow the object we constrain it to using a weight parameter. So this is really neat, and that weight can be animated and blended. All right, but with the object selected, and once we have chosen the position constraint, let's go ahead and select our fuel cap. Now you'll see that the connection has been made, but our hose, the chain for it, has popped to the pivot of our fuel cap. So in our case, this is not good at all. We need to still have the chain fit within the hose. So let's go ahead and undo that back. And we have a few ways of fixing this problem. We can use a secondary object, or we can simply work with constraint compensation. So again, when applying a constraint, if you want to avoid an offset, feel free to use constraint compensation, which will leave the object that is constrained preserved in its original position. So let's go ahead and have that turned on. We'll select our effector again. We'll go back to our position constraint, add that to the cap, and now you'll see that no offset has happened. However, that offset is stored in our position constraint properties. So here are those values. Okay, so if we were to lock down this page, we can take a look at a few things. Let's make sure constraint compensation is off now. Very important, because with it on, we can still go in and start to move that constraint object around, and things may not work properly. So let's make sure that's off. But now watch this. If we were to take our ship control and start to move it around, you'll see that the chain will follow, which is really neat. What's even more incredible is that we can now start to use this blend weight to control whether the hose will stay connected or whether it will no longer be attached. So right now, by default, of course, it's set to 1. If we were to set this to 0, move our ship, notice it's going to stay. However, if we bring that back to 1, it gets connected back to wherever we connected it to initially. So this is really neat stuff. What I'll do is set the blend weight back to 1. For the airship to go back to where it was before, remember, we've already set a neutral pose on our animation control, so let's go ahead and zero out our position parameters. Okay, great. Now just to show you where we can find that constraint, if we were to go to our Explorer, a fast way to do this is to select the constraint object and press the F key in the Explorer to frame the object. And now we can expand it. And notice under kinematics, we have our constraint level. So expanding that, we'll find the position constraint. If you ever want to remove the position constraint or any type of constraint, simply with the object selected, go back to your main control panel and choose constraint. I'll go ahead and tear this off so you can see this. You can choose either remove constraint to remove that specific constraint, or remove all constraints. All right. Well, there's the constraint. We can get back to the property page, clicking on its icon, and there we have it. So in this lesson, we learned how to work with constraints, and we learned how to apply a constraint without any offset at all. And overall, we've learned how to now connect our fueling hoses chain to our airship. So the last lesson will be the last topic we need to cover about joints, and that's going to be enveloping to chains in Softimage.